Hi, and welcome to Perusal 8. So today we are back to Chapter 3, coming back to research ethics and connecting that to our conversation in the next perusal about credibility, research soundness, and combing back through, as we do in the research design process, and applying what we have already discussed in terms of ethics to our new updated thinking about data collection, methodology, and data analysis. So here is the agenda of what I'm going to be talking about today, hopefully briefly. I've been going way over, but that's okay. So I wanted to bring about question of the day. So I would love to know if you have any summer traditions that are fun, that you are enjoying, put that in there. And if you have other questions for us, we will answer them. I would say this is kind of just this summer, but I've been going to Big Softy to get soft serve ice cream like once a week, and I love it so much. So I am going to talk just briefly about, give you some inspiration for crafting your methodology rationale, give you some ideas to think about when you are considering the ideas in chapter 3, give you an overview of the articles you can choose from, and then talk about IRB. Chapter 3 does delve into IRB. I'm going to give you hopefully some tips and tricks and some resources that hopefully are helpful as you start writing IRBs once you get to that point, and then talk about your memo. Okay, so methodology rationale. So this is something that really a big theme of the summer is giving your rationale and aligning. So when you are working on your research design memo, you need to very concisely give a rationale for why your methodology aligns with your research, why you're choosing it. So you can start with your purpose. Why are you doing it? And again, that should tie into your research question and consider that within the larger context of why your study is important. And then discuss this rationale alongside how other scholars have conceptualized the methodology and then also applied it. So all of the work that you've been doing, the articles that you've been adding to your bibliographic library, your methodology inspo articles, you can use that too. So this is an example from a published article that gives a rationale about why they used counter storytelling. So you can see here they talked about why they did it. They gave a definition, and then they also talked about how other scholars have used it. They applied a case study. So this is an example of how you might do that. You can pause that if you want to read that. So this is from a book talking about how to use, when do you use case studies. So this is just, for example, I know people are doing all different types of methodology, but this type of questioning and thinking are just ways for you to, some prompts for you to help you formulate this rationale that you'll be writing. How do you know, should you be doing case study or any others? Of course, it's no formula, but and this is just for case study, it'll be different based on your purpose, starting with the purpose. If you're trying to explain something like a how or why, then case study could be relevant. So thinking about your purpose, if you are trying to understand the lived experience, if you are trying to like look at the lived stories, lived experiences. If you are trying to critique a policy, if you are trying to evaluate something, think about your purpose and then use that to go into your methodology. And of course, that will tie in through your research questions and everything else that you have aligned. And then similar to this article, you can cite other sources that you are using for your particular iteration of that methodology and how other scholars have used it too. So just a little note about that, because I know you are working on your research design memo. Okay, so on to chapter 3. So we started off reading chapter 3 several weeks ago. We read the beginning. And when we started this discussion, chapter 3, we're really focused on this idea of credibility versus trustworthiness versus ethics. And so I just highlighted here some of the words. In class, we talked about what you want your research to be. Do you want it to be accessible? Do you want it to be truthful? Do you want it to be reflective? Do you want it to be reliable or authentic sound? What are the descriptions that are guiding your goals? And again, that should tie into your methodology. So this is what we've talked about that. And then this idea of credibility. How can you make it credible? How can you convince others that the findings that you have found are worthwhile, true? So some of those ideas in there. So we started off with the first part of the chapter talking about this. Oh, look. Okay, so then we also spent a lot of time talking about positionality and how researchers, that's actually a method to enhance your trustworthiness, is by being very forthcoming about who you are and your relationship to the work. So we wrote positionality statements. This is something that you will continue to do and continue to update. I wanted to come to this quote here because this is something I've been thinking about a lot just as I start to read your mini memos. For a lot of you, thinking about what you will do during data collection and data analysis, because this process of completing your dissertation will impact who you are and your identity in a way. So thinking about that, your identities are fluid, and of course in different places, people's perceptions of you, especially when you're in the data collection phase, can change, or your reflection on it can change. So keeping that active throughout is so important. So thinking about the connection between ethics and credibility. So going back through all of the questions about ethics that we have gone over, applying that to your analysis methods, your data collection methods. Of course, field notes and memoing, that was something that definitely came up a lot in this chapter. I'm seeing so many comments about some of you are just finding that you enjoy memoing, you find it helpful. So I'm so happy that you started this now, and it's something that you can keep on doing. And it's actually, again, a way to enhance the soundness of your research, the transparency, the trustworthiness, and it's a great place for you to reflect on ethics and write these down. So they talked about different types here. And then this quote as well, the product's final credibility and usefulness. Oh, that's the word that I was looking for. To others will be greatly enhanced if future readers can find an account of the record. So field notes can even show up in your final dissertation in perhaps chapter 3, 4, and then maybe even to a lesser extent 5. So making sure that you are keeping these different types of field notes. But then this word usefulness, I wanted to call out as well in terms of goals for your research. You might want it to be useful. So thinking about just reframing like credible, true, reliable, useful could be the word that is most aligned with your methodological approach. Okay, so field notes, memoing, all of that. And then even field notes too, as you can see, you might traditionally think of field notes only if you're doing observation or participant observation. And many of you in your data collection mini memos and data analysis mini memos have talked about incorporating field notes, even if you're doing an interview or things like that. And as you can see here, talking about those field notes, even if you've done an interview or a focus group or a different element of your data collection. Do I have a quote about this one? No, I don't. Okay, so I'll show you this one. So the continua of participant, oh, I do, this right here. The continua of participation, the continua of participation that you will take. And again, this should align with your methodology. So here you can see a more traditional might be doing empathetic neutrality, but then those of us who are doing critical work will have a different stance and understand that we as the research instrument have an impact, and then we also have our standpoint that is important, and we're not claiming to be neutral or unbiased, but rather we have a different purpose, which has to do with disentangling power structures. And so therefore having these perspectives are important to actualize that purpose. So thinking about that, and then the ethics of that. Are you an observer or participant? I've seen a lot of this come up in your mini memos as well. So that's something else to think about. Another idea that came up in this chapter is about access to participants, gaining access. And so lots to think about that. And then this page here is getting into crystallization. So you're going to have the opportunity in the next perusal to read the original article about crystallization. And then there's also an optional article about applying crystallization. So this is something that you have likely heard. You've heard triangulation, you've heard crystallization when it comes to demonstrating validity of research results, but it's important, in my opinion, if you are going to say that you are using crystallization as a method to demonstrate validity, that you've read the primary source. So that is in the next perusal. I couldn't decide where to put it. So if you want to read that now, feel free. Sorry. So we are going to be getting into that as well, and making sure that you are thoughtful about which term you are using for this idea of validity or crystallization, and that you are, again, giving your rationale and that it's aligned with your methodology. And again, I like this quote as well. If you are using this metaphor of crystallization, always coming back to the self-critique, self-reflexivity. So this might be a great opportunity for you to go back to those reflexivity questions that we wrote in mini memo 3.2 probably, and think about what you might add now that you have learned more about data analysis. How will that impact those self-reflexive questions that you ask yourself along the way? You might have more specific ones now that we have gone through that. So go ahead in the next part of perusal, drop your thoughts, other thoughts about chapter 3, your updated thinking, or anything that jumped out to you about the rest of chapter 3. So that is in the next part of perusal. Okay, so I don't want to go to this yet. Do I? Let me see. Oh, okay, I do. Okay, so these are the articles that you have to choose from for this week. So let me just go over to Perusall to show you these for ethics. Okay, so this first option is ethics, reflexivity, and ethically important moments in research. This is one that is mentioned in chapter 3. So this is a great choice. This one, humanizing research, decolonizing qualitative inquiry with youth and communities. So for those of you that are either interested in or considering doing research that involves getting data from students, or something like this might be a good choice for you. Everyday ethics, reflection on practice. So this author is, I mean, all of these authors are heavy hitters, but this is something as well that might be of interest. I think that this one was also mentioned in our text. So you have this one, and then also something about the consent form. That's something to consider as well. And then this one, Carolyn Ellis, kind of one of the queens of qualitative inquiry, telling secrets, revealing lives, relational ethics, and research with intimate others. So thinking about after you've collected all this data and you go to write it up, the ethics of representing that data when it's something that, even if you use a pseudonym, even if you keep it confidential, what are the ethics of revealing that? So some fun articles to read. So go ahead and choose one, leave your comments. If you think it would be helpful for someone else, at them or me. So interested to hear what you think about these. Okay, so next is IRB. So I know that some of you have, I don't know. Have some of you started IRB, but I know that some of you have been thinking about it. So I wanted to talk about IRB here. Let me switch this around so you can see everything I mean, I know you have access to the slides, but so you don't have to go there. So IRB, I'm assuming that everyone has city training. If not, you need to work on that. So that's something that you can be working on. I need to refresh mine. Mine's due in August. So if you want to be study buddies, let me know. I have resources for that too. So when you do IRB, you're going to need the application. I have a sample. You're going to need your recruitment materials. Again, that's covered in chapter 3. So you have to give IRB either the email that you are going to use, if it's a flyer, whatever you're using to recruit, you have to give them that. Site approval letters. So if you are wanting to do this research in a school, you have to have their approval first before Georgia State IRB will approve it. And a lot of schools have their own IRBs as well. You have to do the informed consent. They have a specific template that you must use. So that is for you to do too. Assent form. For those of you that are interviewing children, you'll need to do that. You also need to turn in your research protocol. So your research design memo that you are doing for this class will be absolutely perfect for that because it's very short, but it's going through the elements of your research design. You will also need patience and diligence because like everything else when it comes to research, writing a successful IRB takes practice. And this is likely your first time. If it's not, you have a little bit more practice, but if it's your first time, you know, you're likely going to make mistakes and they will give you revisions and you fix them. So at Georgia State, I found that the IRB process is very quick, they're very responsive, and so you're able to get those revisions in and get that. So I suggest that you take a look at these resources and start working now so they're ready to go. And I also recommend that you keep it simple and clear. So it needs to be comprehensive, but simple and clear and straightforward is best. So all of the practice we've gotten in this class about being concise and making sure that everything aligns, there's no gaps, you're not introducing a whole nother body of data, will help you. So this is how you get to it. So on Georgia State's website, you can Google for human subjects, IRB, and then this is the login, EPRS login. So this is what you log into to get to that portal to do your IRB. So a resource I have for you, I have this Google Drive folder that is IRB sample materials. So these are available to you if you find it helpful, but this is like a sample application. So this is just a PDF of an IRB that I did that was approved. So, you know, this language you can use as a model. Someone did this for me when I was a grad student and I found it so helpful. So you can see like, you know, if you're doing it by yourself, you might say, I am interested in understanding. So you can kind of use this to help you script through what you need to do. So you can see an idea of the types of questions that they're going to ask you. So oh gosh, it's so long. Ooh. Okay, so that is the application. That's the application. Consent form. Now, again, don't make a copy of my consent form. Go through the Georgia State IRB to make sure that you have the exact updated template that they want you to use or they want accepted, and a consent script, a recruitment material. I put that here, and then research protocol. So you can see very similar to what we're doing in this class, maybe a little bit shorter, but so summary, general information, rationale. Oh, that's funny. Rationale, background information, the objective. Okay. Design methodology, data management and analysis. That's definitely something. You can also think about that in your memoing for chapter 3 too. Where are you going to store all this data? And some of you have already been talking about that too, expected outcomes, etc. So I am going to link this entire folder to iCollege. So when you get to it, you can pull this up and you can use that to guide you and help you in the language that you can do to be successful for IRB. Okay, so that is IRB. So lastly, your memo for this perusal. So this memo is Memo 10, Ethics. And so in this memo, you are going to reflect on ethical considerations that you are making in regards to your proposal. Make this your updated thinking. So if it's something you've already included in a memo, you don't need to include that. Just any updates that you have in response to chapter 3 or the article that you read. You might consider creating categories to discuss the ethical considerations, maybe ethical considerations for sampling. I'm sorry, I was lecturing for my other class earlier. Sampling is how you would recruiting participants. So your methods for that, your methods for data collection, your ethical considerations for data analysis for representing the data. So you might do it like that. Definitely one thing to think about is relational interactions with participants. Now that you've thought a lot about data analysis or more about data analysis, how does that impact your thinking on ethics and how you will respect your participants? Maybe this has sparked something about your positionality that you want to update. Like I mentioned, those reflexive questions, maybe you have updates to those you want to include. Changes to your data collection or data analysis based on what we've read. So those are just some ideas, but again, updated thinking. I should have made this say updated. I probably will after I stop recording this, but updated primary ethical considerations relevant to your study, something that has come up. And then if you want to think about IRB considerations, you can do that too. You don't need both of these. This is just a suggestion. You can make this memo your own, whatever is most salient for what you are thinking about right now. So I look forward to seeing your comments. Bye.